like to keep these really casual, like a girlfriend conversation. You can ask me questions. We can keep it super, casual, whatever you like. Welcome to the Art and Hustle Gallery Conversations.
Okay, so thanks for having me, Linda. This is awesome. We definitely go back to like 2018 when I first started curating. So everybody knows me as J Love. I first started out documenting street art, and I had my own WordPress on. I had my own blog on WordPress in 2017, and I started like blogging about spirituality and like creative ambiance and art and all kinds of things that have to do with visual art. And after that, I started putting my pictures up on Instagram, and different graffiti writers were like tagging themselves on the photos and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I want to start interviewing these people. I want to know what's behind the graffiti, because I fell in love with it at the age of 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm from Spanish Harlem, and my dad had brought me to the Graffiti Hall of Fame. And I was like 6 years old and just mesmerized by all the colors and all the different shapes. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So growing up in that environment in the 80s and seeing all the graffiti, I just fell in love with street art and graph. And then when I was working in Soho, that's when I really dipped into taking the photos. Mm-hmm. And it just organically became this thing. Like I started this wild movement. I wanted to just have everybody be able to express their artistic, creative ways, regardless of where they come from, what's their background, their race, no matter their color, shape, or size, just be free. And no matter your religion, none of that, that's what being wild was to me. Like, that's what I started my movement. And I had my first art show at the Lazy Susan Gallery. Yeah. And it was really cool. I had some big names in there.
What year was that?
That was like 2018, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
2018. And then I've always loved poetry, so I wanted to mix like poetry and street art together. So I would like print my poetry on frames, and I had printed my poetry on canvas, and I put that in the gallery. And I met a lot of people, did a lot of networking, and then that's how I met you. I met so many people, and like being part of it was really hard at first. Like a lot of women weren't inviting, and it was all like male dominated and everything, but like the more I got into it, the better it became. I can't even remember. I know it was Image Gallery.
And
then she was like, you have to meet this woman, you have to come to this other show that's going to happen here. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Art and Hustle. Like, I was like super excited.
That's
super excited.
That's so cool
to meet you, because you were already like so advanced, and you had all your merch, and you're such an artist and do so many different things with fashion and art, and like it's just amazing.
Yeah, and that was just like a passion project of mine that I just randomly like was like, you know what, I did my first art show. I found like a little like small little like pop-up gallery thing in Gowanus, Brooklyn, did that, met all these great people. And the same thing with you, like I wanted a safe space where people can come and show whatever type of art you're doing, if it's spoken word, if it's poetry, if it's like, live model painting, or it's canvas art, whatever medium they were using. I had no like discernment of like, turning people away. If you wanted to be a part of it, you were part of it. There was like race was not an issue. What kind of medium you used was not an issue. Like was doing the same thing where I was like, I was accepting of everybody, and I just wanted, love and light to be like at events. So what did you do before? And were you always into this? Like, how do you make your money? Do you continue doing your art, or you have like another?
Well, I used to work a lot. I mean, I've been working since I was 14 years old. I was a teen mom, so I had to do that. And then I worked in the beauty industry for more than 15 years, as a guest relations specialist. I worked for one salon in Park Avenue for like 8 years. I worked for Diva Curl for like 5 years, and then I was an independent contractor for them, where I was like a curl coach. And I would train the women at Sephora how to use the product and sell it, and then help upsell there. So I had like 7 stores in Manhattan, and I used to get paid like $300 per store. I used to make my own schedule. It was fun being an independent contractor. And then I got laid off, and then I was like on unemployment. And at the time, I had already moved from New York to New Jersey, and I was living there for 5 years. And then I decided to just not renew my lease for the apartment. My kids, like my son wanted to go live with his dad. He was not doing too good in school. So I let that, I let him go at 14. And
Mhm.
my daughter at the time, she was, with her girlfriend and was already like 18 and wanted to move out. So I
Yeah.
said, you know what? For the first time ever, I put everything in storage and decided to come back to New York and live with my sister.
Mhm.
And then after that, I just said to myself, I don't want to work for anybody anymore.
Yeah. But what year was this?
I lived off savings, and I have a very supportive family.
Yeah.
And I kind of got used to making my own schedule and being an independent contractor. And when that fell through after doing that for so long and only working like 7 days out of a month
Yeah.
and still, I just didn't want to like do that anymore. Took
Yeah.
a break to like really focus on me. I took a mental break. I had to, you know, like stay away from people and not isolate, but just really take care of me. I was on Instagram. And
Mhm.
then one time I said to myself, I wanted to hang out, and it was like late, and my niece had took over the living room
Yeah.
at my sister's. And it was like this struggling artist time for me. It was like rediscovering who I am, what was Wildflowers about. I had this book that I had written when I was 16. I was looking for somebody to publish it. People were letting me down. I gave my manuscript away to someone, and they promised they were going to help me publish it. And at that time, it was like the only copy that I had.
Mhm.
It, it, and they didn't do anything with it, though. I got very depressed and I lost contact with the person. And then I didn't have my manuscript for years.
Really?
I didn't know that I had it in an email. Yeah, I didn't know that I had. There was like this old email account that kept saying it was full. I was trying to clean it out, and I stumbled upon my two manuscripts, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" This was later on, but before that, with the depression and everything,
Mhm.
I had to like get a therapist, psychiatrist. It was like not good with my anxiety and stuff. So then I started getting, and the art became very therapeutic. It became
Mm.
an outlet
Mhm.
where, even though I'm not like, I don't draw and I don't paint, I've always doodled and I've always wanted to draw flowers, and I love graffiti. So I remember the first time somebody put a can in my hand, they were like, you should try it, you should do it. I'm like, no, I just take photos of you guys. I just, you know, and they're like, you got to do it. So once I got into it, and then I started dating a graffiti writer,
Mhm.
we started going bombing together, and I got more into it. And
Yeah.
he was one of the followers that hit me up on DM and was like, hey, you want to hang out, when I was like put it up on my story.
Yeah.
And and then I found out that he was like renting a room. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm looking for a place. And I had never rented a room before in my life. I've always had my own apartment since I was 19.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And all my stuff was in storage. I was living with my sister. I was just being free. I had just
Yeah.
got out of a very serious relationship that was very hurtful.
Yeah.
So someone that I was engaged to had broke my heart and cheated on me with his ex-wife.
Oh my God.
So, dealing with that and putting everything in storage and starting again in New York after living 5 years in New Jersey, but still working in the city,
Mhm.
like it was just a lot. So being able to like start fresh, I said, you know what, I'll rent the room. Da, da, da. And we were friends, and we definitely dated for like a year, and then it became really serious in
Mhm.
2019. So
And
I've
you're
been with
still
him
with
ever
him?
since. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
good.
that's
So but
awesome.
now I don't rent a room from him anymore. Yeah, I don't rent the room from him anymore. His room, but I have the whole living room. He was nice enough to let me live here with my cat,
So
with my cat
that's
and
awesome.
my
So you
stuff
rented the room and then you never left.
for a little while.
Yeah.
And then after we decided to become serious, there was no point of renting the room anymore. It was just crazy how. And then he's part of like this really well-known graffiti crew, and it's just crazy like the story how you fall in love with graph, you meet a graffiti writer, you fall in love with him, and then just like he opened up this whole other creative side to me
Mhm.
that my father says is not good because it's illegal. But I love what they do, and I respect it.
Mhm.
And every graph writer has a different story to tell.
Mhm.
It's so crazy. They come from all different walks of life,
Yeah.
and really interesting. So
That's super cool. So what do you think helped you what are some things that helped you get out of like that mental, you know, because mental health is so important.
You gotta, the first step to mental health is admitting.